My name's Lydia Hickman and I'm a PhD researcher at the University of Birmingham. The main idea for this study has stemmed from the fact that we see an increased prevalence of Parkinson's in the autistic population. For example, Starkstein and colleagues reported that 32% of their autistic sample met the diagnostic requirements for Parkinson's based on the Unified Parkinson's Disease Rating Scale, compared to around 0.1 to 0.9% of non-autistic adults. Similarly, Crowan and colleagues reported a Parkinson's diagnosis prevalence of 0.93 in the autistic population compared to 0.03 in the non-autistic population. These findings may lead us to conclude that autistic individuals have an increased genetic risk of developing Parkinson's. However, it may also be the case that autistic adults are more likely to reach Parkinson's diagnosis criteria for another reason. Similarities between autistic and Parkinsonian movements have been noted, and given that Parkinson's assessments are often movement-based, this similarity may contribute to increased diagnoses. In a separate study, we're currently conducting the first direct comparison of autistic and Parkinsonian movement in a matched groups design to identify exactly what these similarities are. Turning back to this study, genetic overlap between autism and Parkinson's exists in that a number of Parkinson's risk genes have been associated with autism. However, to obtain a broader picture of polygenic overlap, GWAS data can be used to assess the similarities of the full genetic profiles. In addition, individual polygenic risk scores can be calculated for autism and Parkinson's in the same individuals to quantify an individual's propensity to both conditions. In terms of behavioural similarities, we know that autistic and Parkinsonian movements can be characterised by increased jerk and number of sub-movements, but may be distinguished by velocity and acceleration. Finally, both conditions show differences in mental state attribution. The aims of this study are to provide insight into whether the increased prevalence of Parkinson's diagnosis in the autistic population can be attributed to increased genetic risk. It also aims to elucidate the genetic basis of the social and motor overlap observed between autism and Parkinson's. In this study, we'll recruit 5,000 individuals from the general population. Questionnaire measures will be employed to assess autistic traits, Parkinsonian traits, alexithymic traits, and nonverbal reasoning ability. A shapes tracing task will be used to index movement kinematics, and will then use the animations task to assess both production and perception of mental state animations. In the create animations task, participants will be asked to move 2 triangles to create animations which depict the words mocking, surprising, following, and searching, and movement kinematics will be extracted. In the narrate animation task, participants will watch animations and rate the extent to which they depict each of the words, and an accuracy score will be calculated. Finally, polygenic risk scores for autism and Parkinson's will be calculated for each individual. We'll conduct an initial analysis of the GWAS data using LD score regression to obtain a genetic correlation between autism and Parkinson's. This will be followed up by analysis of gene ontology terms associated with the overlap and magma analysis to investigate the associated biological pathways. Next, we'll conduct an individual level analysis in which regression analyses will be employed to assess the relative predictive strengths of autism and Parkinson's genetic profiles, or polygenic risk scores, to the above measures of motor function, social cognition, and traits. The diagram demonstrates our predicted relationships, with a green arrow indicating a positive prediction and an orange arrow indicating a negative prediction.